I want to make three general comments about Dr. Fernandez's case and then address specific arguments. First, his argument about the alleged absurdity of life without God is really nothing more than an appeal to emotion, and I would say irrelevant in a debate about evidence. Second, his arguments about morality, the sanctity of human life, are just versions of the same argument, and so they're not truly independent of one another. Third, I don't think Dr. Fernandez has provided us with a cumulative case for theism. In order for his case to be cumulative, each argument must independently support the God of theism and not just some supernatural being in general. But by his own admission, most of his own arguments do not show that a moral or personal God exists. I'll have more to say about this a little bit later on. Let's turn then to some of his arguments, to all of his arguments for theism. His first argument was that the beginning of the universe supports the existence of God, and I have three responses. First, naturalists who accept the Big Bang model do not believe that the universe just popped into existence out of nothing. Rather, they believe that there was no time at which the universe did not exist, and there is no place the universe came from. On naturalism, the universe just is, and that's all. Second, there is no reason to believe the universe has a cause. The kernel of truth in my opponent's argument is that anything which begins to exist in space and time must have a cause. Naturalists are willing to accept that. However, the origin of the universe is not an event in space and time. Rather, at least if the Big Bang theory is true, the origin of the universe is the very origin of space and time itself. And Dr. Fernandez has given us no reason to believe that has a cause. Third, what's the theistic alternative? That somebody could make a universe out of absolutely nothing? That a being who exists outside of time could magically cause time itself to exist? The theistic explanation is no better than the naturalistic explanation, and maybe worse. As for the continuing existence of the universe, I think that Dr. Fernandez has committed the fallacy of composition. Just because parts of the universe are dependent in some sense, it doesn't follow that the universe as a whole is dependent. In fact, I have to confess, I just don't see what he's getting at here. Naturalists who accept the Big Bang theory believe that the universe is only about, say, 15 billion years old, and it's not going to go on forever. It's going to run down eventually. So what's the problem? It's not like we're talking about some independently eternal object. I'd like to hear more explanation from Dr. Fernandez on that point. I simply don't see the problem. I'm therefore going to go on to his next argument, the argument 2 design, and I have three responses to that. First, why should we believe that either fine-tuning or the origin of life is improbable on naturalism? Consider the parameters of our universe which allow life. How does Dr. Fernandez know what their probability is? Stephen Su, a physicist at Yale specializing in theoretical particle physics, says, quote, "This stuff is nonsense. The number these people cite are pulled out of thin air. Really, we don't have the slightest idea how likely or unlikely the universe is." Or take the origin of life. The odds he gave are flawed because they assume a random process. The naturalist claims that the origin of life was the result of non-random, deterministic laws. Second, why should we believe that either fine-tuning or life is likely on theism? Just because God exists doesn't mean he wants to design either the first cell or a universe capable of sustaining life. And if God did decide to create a world with life, don't you think he could have done a better job? As my arguments for naturalism show, our universe leaves much to be desired. Third, Occam's razor comes into play here. Even if these things were unlikely on naturalism, and I don't think they are, that wouldn't mean we need to explain the known in terms of the unknown. Maybe there are many universes, and ours is the only universe that allows life. Maybe life began on another planet 12 billion years ago and was transported to Earth on a meteor. I don't actually believe any of these things. That's not the point. The point is that all other things held equal, the alleged fine-tuning, as well as the origin of life, are not evidence for theism and against naturalism. And number 4, he brought up the example of Michael Behe's book on irreducible complexity. I simply don't think there are any irreducibly complex systems. To say that a biological system is irreducibly complex assumes that if the system was missing a part, it could not have been functional in any environment for any reason. But a predecessor to that system could lack a part and yet still be functional because some part of its environment is different than the environment of its descendant. In fact, this is precisely what the naturalist claims happened. What Fernandez calls irreducibly complex systems evolved indirectly from systems that performed slightly or very different functions in our ancestors. Given how little we know about ancestors, how could Fernandez possibly show that precursors could not have performed different functions in our ancestors? Biochemistry is very young and very complicated, and I just think this is a totally premature conclusion for him to draw. Thus, if evolution is true, we shouldn't expect to know how such systems evolved, at least not yet. His next argument for theism was the moral law, and I just want to make two comments very briefly. First, objective morality is logically compatible with naturalism. Indeed, Richard Swinburne, arguably the most influential Christian philosopher today, says that, and I quote, "If morality is objective, the naturalistic," let me say that again, "the naturalistic account of it is correct, and morality is based on a set of logically necessary truths." Second, God's commands could create moral obligations if and only if there is an already existing moral obligation to obey God's commands. Thus, even if God exists, there is at least one moral obligation, the obligation to obey God, that holds independently of God, and therefore this is no evidence for theism. Turning again very briefly to his argument about the alleged absurdity of life without God, I've already shown that this is irrelevant. Again, I just want to emphasize the topic of our debate is naturalism versus theism. Which way does the evidence point? We are not here to discuss naturalism versus theism, which view makes us happy. After all, just because a statement is depressing does not make it false, and therefore I just think this is irrelevant. But he says, how can there be any ultimate meaning? And I think that this, even though I think that this is technically irrelevant to the topic of our debate, I want to address this because I know that this is a question many people have. And I want to say that Dr. Fernandez is absolutely right that if there is no God, life would have no ultimate meaning. Ultimate meaning. But just because life has no ultimate meaning does not mean that it is meaningless. Even if there is no purpose of life, there can still be purpose in life. In fact, this is widely recognized even by Dr. Fernandez's counterparts in the Society of Christian Philosophers. Michael Peterson, Bruce Hasker, or William Hasker, Bruce Reichenbach, and David Basinger point out in their book published by Oxford University Press, Rationality and Religious Belief, I think is the title of it. They say, quote, "The burden of proof clearly lies with the believer. What the believer must establish is that non-believers who deny cosmic, or as I call it, ultimate meaning, but still claim to possess personal meaning, are not justified in maintaining this position." And Dr. Fernandez hasn't even come close to showing that. As they go on to say, quote, "There appears to be no widespread scientific, psychological, or physiological, or logical support for the claim that one cannot justifiably claim to have personal meaning if one denies cosmic meaning," end quote. And I think this is just apparent if you look at the lives of some of the more famous non-theists, like Bertrand Russell. Is Phil Fernandez actually going to say that Bertrand Russell had a meaningless life? I'm sorry, I just don't buy that. That seems absolutely absurd to me. I think it's quite obvious that Bertrand Russell and several other non-theists have had very meaningful lives. It may not have been ultimately meaningful in a theistic sense, but it was clearly meaningful. And in fact, that reminds me, he quoted Bertrand Russell, who talked about a life built upon the firm foundation of unyielding despair. And I think it's important to point out the context of that quotation is not what my opponent thinks it was. Russell was talking about the meaning of life given theistic expectations. Russell said that life is meaningless in a religious sense, but he went on to say that life is meaningful in an ethical sense. And if this is interesting or confusing or both to you, I would recommend Quentin Smith's book, Ethical and Religious Thought, where he explains this in great detail. So I completely disagree with the way that Bertrand Russell's been quoted in tonight's debate.